Sorry guys, if you've heard this story before, I'm gonna say it again. When I went to Terminator Genisys and we saw the trailer for Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, it shows the scene where Tom Cruise is hanging off the plane, and I know it's a stunt that he really did. It took about 8 or 7 takes for them to get the right shot. And as that scene is happening in the trailer, some woman behind me says this. Ha! Fake! Sorry lady, but Tom Cruise does his own stunts. That's one of the reasons why he's so insane. Of course, Mission Impossible Rogue Nation is the newest Mission Impossible film. And to think that it is the 5th film in the franchise, and it's still Tom Cruise, and he's still doing his own stunts, that's insane to me. And a lot of people are saying this, and I totally agree. This is one of the best 5th installments to a movie franchise that a 5th installment deserves to be. It's not without its flaws, which I'm going to go into, of course, when I get to the bad, but Rogue Nation is an incredible fun time. So Rogue Nation starts off right where Ghost Protocol left off, and that is the IMF is having to deal with the consequences of the disasters and the things that happened in Ghost Protocol. The CIA is trying to dissolve the IMF, and the head of the CIA is being played by Alec Baldwin, which is really great in this film as well. But Ethan Hunt believes that there is a group of rogue spies from all around the world that have teamed up and form a group called the Syndicate. Now the Syndicate is doing these terrorist actions and staying in the shadows, causing assassinations, global disasters, and all sorts of things without any ties to them. So of course Ethan Hunt is going to do whatever it takes to stop the Syndicate, reveal them to the world, and take them out. But of course the CIA believe that Ethan Hunt is completely crazy and he's fabricated this whole thing and he's actually doing these terrorist things, and so he has become a fugitive. And so he has to be on the run from the CIA while trying to search for the Syndicate. Even though Ethan Hunt is the lead character in this film and he does do most of the crazy stunts, he can't do it alone, and he gets help from his old partners and his old friends in Ghost Protocol. So even though he's doing super crazy things just like Ghost Protocol and other Mission Impossible films, he is definitely no superhero, and he is pretty much human because he does get into a bit of a mess from time to time throughout this film. And while trying to uncover the Syndicate, he also encounters an agent in the Syndicate that might be a double agent and an undercover agent for MI6 or some sort of organization. And so her motives are questioned throughout the film, but she is a really great character as well. Now what Rogue Nation does well is it takes a bunch of the best ideas from the previous 4 films and integrates it into a new film and makes it its own. You got the aspect where Ethan Hunt is a fugitive just like the first Mission Impossible. You have some slightly more subtle Bond-like characteristics in this film, like Mission Impossible 2 had some Bond characteristics in its film. The characteristics in Rogue Nation that I'm talking about is the Syndicate, which is like a Spectre organization, and the beginning scene where he's actually on a side of a plane, which is kind of like the mission that happens in the James Bond films before the actual main mission occurs. You got these numerous action scenes just like Mission Impossible 3, and you got the team aspect of the film, which is just like Ghost Protocol. All the great things about those 4 movies are integrated into this film, which is probably why some people actually think this is the best Mission Impossible film of the 5 films. The undercover female agent in this film is sometimes the most compelling character in the entire film, and she gets a story of her own that has a lot of twists and turns, a lot of nice double agents and undercover work, and I really cared about her character, probably even more so than the other characters in the film. Tom Cruise is Ethan Hunt, and he plays the role just as well as any of the other Mission Impossible films. Simon Pegg is really great in this film as Benji, and I'm glad that he got a bigger role in this film than the other ones he was in. Now, of course, the best things by far in this film are the action sequences. It starts off with the plane stunt, and you're thinking, how could it get any better than this? They've already peaked, right? They've already showed us the best thing. But it just keeps getting bigger and better throughout the film, except for the last moment. I think the last couple action sequences towards the end aren't as great as some of the other things because they just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and then it's just pretty much average towards the end of the film, the last act. The plane scene was great, the opera scene was amazing, the water sequence was amazing. There's some really great, well-shot, well-conceived action sequences in this film that is both suspenseful and just entertaining. At the same time, I think some people won't get it and won't care too much about the action sequences. There was one lady in our theater that when things were happening, something big and stuff, then she goes, "This is stupid. This is the stupidest thing I've ever seen." Oh yeah, and the motorcycle chase was phenomenal as well. Also, Rogue Nation was one of the Mission Impossible films that actually felt like a great espionage flick. Because this film deals with double agents, this film deals with undercover agents, this film deals with things done in the shadows and assassinations and all these crazy gadgets as well. This is one of the Mission Impossibles that feels the most like a actual spy film and something that's a smart spy film rather than an over-the-top crazy like the some of the Bond films that can get over the top and crazy. I think one of the best examples in this film of what I'm talking about is the opera sequence, which I don't want to spoil. I think it's one of the best scenes in the entire film. Now, of course, I have to talk about the villain. The villain wasn't as great for me as I would have liked. I think his actions and his whole concept is amazing. He's like the brains of the operation. He's head of this syndicate, and he's the one that is making all the plans, and he's so smart that he's able to conceive all these different possibilities and make up a backup plan and have all these contingencies for what could happen. But when you actually see the villain and when you're dealing with the scenes with the villain in it, he just wasn't as great as what he's led up to be, and what it's like his actions are greater than the actual character himself. And so overall I was a little bummed by the villain, even though I think the concept was spot on and amazing. He's just one of those villains that just needs to be in the shadows throughout the whole movie, and you have to, where his actions speak louder than the actual acting and the character and seeing him on screen. I think that would have made a pretty interesting concept to the villain, but then again, I think most people want to see the villain and they want to feel like the villain is super and great. But I think almost like, I know this is a bad example because this is an awful movie, but like Getaway, where you don't really see the villain, you just, you get his voice, of course, as he's telling them to do stuff, but you don't really see the villain, and then you judge him more on his actions and what he's saying to people rather than what you see on screen. I know that's a bad example because I just wanted this villain in Mission Impossible not to be seen, and you just hear him from the legends and his actions and all the things he's doing, and him being more of a chameleon and a character they're searching for, and then they finally search for him, and then that's like the final act of the film. I think that could have been an interesting take on the Mission Impossible villain. Now, even though I said that it takes the team aspect of Ghost Protocol into this film, it's not as great as Ghost Protocol. Yes, in this film, Ethan Hunt can't do things alone, and they play an important role throughout the film, but overall I don't feel the camaraderie and the bond between characters as much as I did in Ghost Protocol. And so I think Rogue Nation was there, it was good, but lacking compared to Ghost Protocol. The plot is also very basic, which is understandable. It is a Mission Impossible film. It's an action film. Sometimes basic plots just work well. And I think some people are having trouble with the plot of the film, and it feels like it's just an excuse to string together all these big, awesome action sequences. And for the most part, they're right, but it does make sense in the context of the movie. Again, this is a great action film to see for blockbusters, and if you're a big fan of Mission Impossible, I think you're going to like this film. But for me, as much as I like it, it isn't the best that I've seen, even though I have seen only 3 of the Mission Impossible films. One of them is Mission Impossible 2, which is more of a 2.5-star film for me, and Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. And so I'm a little on the fence with Rogue Nation. I feel I could go to 4 stars or 4.5 stars. I really need to put it in between, but don't do quarter stars like I said for this year. It wouldn't be fair to the other movies that I've been on the fence with. So I am going to say 4 stars. I know it's, like I said, it's more of a 4.25 for me because I'm on the fence, but I'm just going to go with 4 stars because I don't think it's good enough to be considered 4.5. But again, 4 stars isn't that big of a deal, people. It's still something that I really enjoyed, something that I had a complete blast watching, and it's going to be one of my favorite films of 2015. So have you seen Mission Impossible Rogue Nation? What did you think about it? Go ahead and comment. If you haven't seen it, what is your favorite Mission Impossible film? Mine, of course, is Ghost Protocol, but I have yet to see Mission Impossible and Mission Impossible 3, which I've heard great things about both. And I definitely have to see Mission Impossible 3 because it's directed by J.J. Abrams. I gotta see it. I love J.J. Abrams. I've liked all of his films. One of my favorite films of all time is Super 8. I know some people hate that film. I really enjoyed it. So as always, this is Bruce Gifford, and this was just my opinion.